Recently, it was announced that Bandai was going to be going back and revisiting the Complete Selection Modification DecaDriver set. Today, I wanted to talk about these releases and also talk about some of the interesting things that have been happening with the US versions of them coming to us thanks to Team Kamen Rider and Bluefin. So, let's go ahead and talk all about it. So if you're not familiar with the Complete Selection Modification line, it is a special high-end premium priced line of Kamen Rider belts that are released every once in a while. I think they get a couple out here every year to kind of go back to older Kamen Rider belts from older shows and just completely deck them out. You know, include every gimmick item that either got released before or sometimes didn't get released. Include a bunch of features, voice phrases, music from the show. I mean, you name it, like these have it. So by the time that new version comes out, the old one will have already been nearly 7 years old, which is absolutely insane. So in that capacity, I can understand why they're revisiting it and such like that, especially because if you never got it 7 years ago, you're definitely going to be paying the aftermarket prices for it. Although, not as bad as you might think. I actually went to Mandarake a day ago or so, and I saw one sitting there for like 35,000 yen, which is like $350, which like... yeah, it's a lot, but like honestly, it's about the cost of this one. Now, since this one is coming out, I think you're probably going to get the better deal here. But I still think that the old one has merit, and they kind of, it was really interesting. I'm going to link this below so you guys can check it out. But there was a whole Bandai blog post about the differences with this one compared to the version 1, and to, you know, kind of what they added, what they were able to do. And I think it's really interesting. So what they talk about here specifically is that the original 2015 CSM is supposed to be more accurate to what Tsukasa wears when he's transforming into Decade, so like what he has on before the suit comes on. And so in that regard, it definitely is very accurate and such like that. And this one is supposed to be one that is depicting more of the version that is actually on the Decade suit when he is transformed, because that lens is like a permanent kind of tinted red when he actually is Decade, which is something that you couldn't do on the original one, because it's just, or even any version really, because it was just a light that would stay on for a couple of seconds when the cards were making it say stuff. But now it's going to be a permanent like red tint on there, and I think that is kind of neat. I do like that distinction. I think it's kind of like a, okay, kind of a cheap way to validate you doing it again, but like, I get it. But one big thing that you're going to get this time that you did not get before is the Ride Booker. Back when the original CSM came out, this wasn't necessarily a trend that they had done, but they have done it since then with things like the Blade CSM, which came with its full Rouser, which looked absolutely incredible. And here you're going to get something very similar for, hey, another card-themed Kamen Rider, so it is fitting. So not only are you going to get this Ride Booker that of course can open up to be the actual Ride Booker form, where it's, you know, the little booklet holding all the cards. Now the original toy could become the binder form, the gun form, and the sword form. And while the binder form and the gun form didn't look too bad, that sword form was obviously very dinky, very lacking in like actual scale of a sword. It was just this tiny little blade that like slid out. Not this time. This time you're going to get a full extension to make this thing like 28 inches long, which is absolutely incredible, and it looks amazing. I cannot deny that at all. I love this. And you're not only going to get that, which you did not get the last time, but they're going to release the original K-Touch in the CSM line, which was something that was sorely missed for both the original Decade CSM and the original D-End CSM. But of course, this belt is going to have all the phrases as before. It's going to have, I believe they actually said in the blog, that they're getting back the guy who recorded the DecaDriver lines to like re-record some of the lines from the original CSM, because some of them, when they did the original recordings for the older version, he like said them as like a different inflection than he did in the actual show or in movies or whatever, which means some of the sounds like inaccurate, which was strange. I don't really know how that happened, but it does look like they said it, at least they said something about it, that they are going to have him come back and probably try to fix it up more, which I definitely appreciate. That was probably my biggest complaint of the original CSM, which, I mean, I'm one to talk. I don't own either one of these. You're going to get 125 cards this original version, or this new version of the DecaDriver, which is basically going to be essentially every single card that Decade ever used on screen. Now, this is not including anything that he used in Geo. This is only going up to like the things he used in the original Decade series and like some of the movies afterward and such like that. So you're gonna get pretty much the typical, you know, suspects here. You're gonna get all 10 of the Heisei Riders. You're gonna get the final form rides, the final attack rides. all that good stuff. You're going to get things like the Amazon's card that was used, or the Amazon, not Amazon's, those are completely different things. The Amazon card that was used towards the end of the show. You're going to get the Skull card used in Movie War 2010, all that stuff. So, makes a lot of sense, like the cards that are here. I'm not surprised. One thing, though, that I thought was very interesting is that they specifically said that they have omitted the final form ride for Decade that turns him into the giant DecaDriver. And the reasoning behind that is the fact that Decade never used this card himself, which is true. They do state in this blog that this card was originally used by D-End, which it was. It was a card used by D-End, and then he shot Decade in the back, basically, and turned him into a DecaDriver. Now, this card was included before. It was included in the original CSM, and it was also, for some reason, included in the Neo DecaDriver release. I don't really know why they included that card there, but hey, cool. I have that card because of that, because I do have the Neo version. I have the Neo version in the K-Touch 21. I don't have any of the CSM ones, but that's a good enough version for me. I prefer the pink belt, to be honest, than the white belt. Of course, everybody's been talking about this card. It's the one causing the problems of all the US ones and everything like that. And of course, the card I'm talking about is none other than Telebikun. Now, this is not the card that's causing all the problems, obviously, but it is one that I think is really cool that they actually are including this time, because this was one that was missing the last time. And if you're not familiar with what this card is from or what it does, this is from the Decade Hyper Battle DVD. And in that DVD special, he used this Telebikun card to summon all of the 9 final forms before him in the complete form, and also that ridiculous cardboard Decade bazooka thing that was present in the special, and also an actual cardboard cutout in the issue of Telebikun that the movie released alongside with. So that is really cool that they're including this card this time. You could still use the original version of the Telebikun card. I don't think it was show accurate looking. It had, or screen accurate. It had like the right picture, but like the text and stuff like that. But I do believe that did unlock a Telebikun sound in all of the different versions of the DecaDriver released so far. I don't think they ever took that sound out. So, having it here, I'm really happy about that. I always like when they kind of, are so complete that they even reference Hyper Battle DVDs, because those always get ignored. So I'm really happy that that's here. But now, obviously, the card that is actually the one causing problems and is the big new card here is the Rekka Daizanto card, which is, of course, the cards featured in the Decade and Shinkenger crossover special that aired back in 2009. When Decade Complete used Shinken Red's Rekka Daizanto, which, of course, if you're not familiar with it, by that name, it is the Fire Smasher from Power Rangers Samurai. He used that, and he used a card to unlock it. And that was a card that was always missing from the original CSM, and is kind of the biggest card that was missing from that release. I mean, shout out to my boy Telebikun, but it was missing, and I understand that people really wanted it, and I'm happy that it's here. But you might think this would have been an easy thing for them to include, and apparently it wasn't. Apparently they were not able to include it the last time because of copyright issues with the Sentai department of Bandai, which makes no sense to me. I'm not really sure why this is such a convoluted process, because, Sentai and Rider are both made by Toei with toys by Bandai. So getting permission to use that kind of artwork or that kind of weapon or, anything Sentai related in this Kamen Rider toy, I never thought would have been so difficult, but apparently it was, and that's why it was not included the last time. And when we're on the topic of Sentai-related things, they did specifically call out the Goseiger card that Decade uses in Superhero Tyson. So if you're not familiar with this scene, it's a pretty cool scene in the movie where the 3 card-based Kamen Riders at the time, so Decade, Ryuki, and Blade, are all given a different element Gosei card from the Goseigers that they use in whatever their weapon of choice are to read cards. So now, of course, this should be no surprise, because by this logic, there technically should have been a Goseiger card with the the V-Buckle release in the CSM, or in the Blade Buckle release of the CSM, and the DecaDriver here is going to be no exclusion. It doesn't have one. It does not have a Goseiger card for him here. And this one they gave more of a reason about. They said that they wanted to include it, but this one they would have actually had to change the location of the barcode on the card, so they actually would have had to change the structure of the card. And while it was already a big of enough pain to get to the Rekka Daizanto through the approval process of the trademark and Sentai copyright stuff, they said that they were not given permission to change the design of the Goseiger cards to accommodate for barcodes moving around, which makes sense. I would rather them not include it than having to include an inaccurate version of it just to get that sound. I think it would have been cool, but I get it, and it's unfortunate that that one scene from Superhero Tyson will never be able to actually happen like in the toys, and it was obviously just a random thing that they did that doesn't actually really make any sense and never actually could work. So when it comes to the different sounds and the music in this toy specifically, there are 12 new songs, or 12 different songs in this toy. Of course, you're going to get Journey Through the Decade, so of course the actual intro to the show. But one that is absolutely incredible, one that I just cannot believe that is here, is an extra sound, the Final Attack Ride Hibiki song, which this is incredible. And how this is going to work is if you load the Final Attack Ride Hibiki card, you will be able to have that entire song play with that background music sound. So not only are they including the whole bit from the show when he used the Final Attack Ride Hibiki and they did an entire musical performance, which I'm going to include a link to that down there below as well. I can't play it for copyright reasons, but it's one of my favorite Toku scenes ever. You have to see it if you've never seen it before. Of course, you're going to get voice phrases in this toy from Tsukasa himself, and the actual K-Touch is also going to include sounds from Narutaki, which is pretty cool. So we've talked about the actual DecaDriver, we've talked about the K-Touch, we've talked about the Ride Booker, but we have to talk about the last new CSM thing that they've also revealed for this, and that is the Card Set Extra. And when they say extra, oh, they mean extra. So this is going to be a set of 89 cards, which some of them did appear on screen, but a lot of them never appeared on screen and are so new that they're not even ready to go for this release pictures to be out there. So a lot of them still say now drawing. They don't even have an actual graphic for the card, but they have revealed every card that's going to be in this set. And it's absolutely incredible. I cannot believe how crazy they're going to really make you have the most complete version of the Heisei Riders in card form that you ever could have had, at least for the first phase. And I don't really know why they're including so many of these when they never appeared on screen and never existed as actual cards, but hey, this is really sweet. So let's go ahead and break it down what we got in this set. So this set is going to include Kamen Rider Decade Violent Emotion. It's going to include Kuga Ultimate Dark Eyes, Kuga Rising Ultimate Dark Eyes, G3X, G3 Mild, Gills, Exceed Gills, Another Agito, Night Survive, Zora, Taiga, Imperior, Verde, Odin, Abyss, Alternative Zero, Chalice, Wild Chalice, Langle, Lance, Lark, Donkey, Sabaki, Eki, Shuki, Toki, Kirameki, Nishiki, Habataki, Kyosuke Henshin, one other Hibiki one that is not translated properly for me, Gatak Hyperform, The Bee, Kick Hopper, Dark Kabuto, Zeranos Zero Form, New Deno, Gao, Nega Deno, Yuki Skull Form, Yuki Hijack Form, G Deno, Kiva Dogabaki Emperor, Ixa Save Mode, Rising Ixa, Dark Kiva, Kivala, Shadow Moon, Kuga Growing Form, Kuga Rising Mighty, Kuga Rising Dragon, Kuga Rising Pegasus, Kuga Rising Titan, Kuga Amazing Mighty, Agito Trinity, Agito Burning, Ryuki Blank, Blade Jack, Garen Jack, Hibiki Kurenai, Kabuto Masked, Gatact Masked, The Bee Masked, Drake Masked, Sasword Masked, Dark Kabuto Masked, Deno Platform, Deno Climax Form, Zeranos Vega, New Deno Vega, Kiva Dogabaki, Kiva Emperor Flight Style, Robo Rider, Bio Rider, and then the Final Attack rides for all of the Showa riders. So this set is insane, it's incredible. Obviously, you probably noticed that the secondary riders and stuff are missing, and a couple of the other tertiaries and stuff, because basically the way this is supposed to work is if you buy all of this new CSM stuff, you're going to get all the older cards. You're going to get this new set with a bunch of brand new cards, and then if you add that to like the Neo DecaDriver, or actually the Neo DeEnd driver, which is where all those other secondaries came from. Basically, if you add the new CSM stuff with the more recent Neo stuff, you're gonna have like every card ever. Basically, is the point. And I think that works. I think that that's cool, and I think that it's kind of nice that they complement each other because the cards, I believe, are staying the same size, so they should be able to, well, not really cross, toys because like the Neo stuff is not gonna have sounds for like Kamen Rider Toki, but I guess this new toy will, which is incredible. So now how can you buy all this stuff? Well, there's a bunch of different options that you have. Basically, there are a couple of distinct options to pick from. So the first one here is just the Complete Selection Modification DecaDriver version 2. So this is just going to be the regular DecaDriver with all of the cards and such like that. But you're not going to get the K-Touch with this one. So this is just a regular DecaDriver with all the cards, which, will get you, everything you really need if you just don't care about the K-Touch. Now, of course, you can buy the more expensive set that comes with the K-Touch, so you'll have everything in the original set plus the K-Touch, and it's the only way to get the K-Touch. As far as I'm aware, you cannot buy the K-Touch separately, which is kind of disappointing, I understand that, but it's just kind of the way that they're doing this. You're going to be able to buy the Ride Booker by itself, which is just an individual toy. I don't believe there's any version of this where you can buy it with the DecaDriver. And then another option, which I find is very strange, but if you wanted it, sure, is just the Decade cards. This is just the 125 cards that are featured in the Neo DecaDriver, so you're not actually going to get a DecaDriver with this version. It's literally just the 125 cards that you're getting with the belt. But if you didn't want the belt, which I don't really know why you would buy this, unless you have the original CSM and maybe you needed the cards for that or something, but you're not going to get all the new sounds and stuff like that out of this, but sure, I guess you can just buy those cards on its own. And then the extra card set that I just went over is its own individual thing as well. So basically, if you really just like Rider cards, you can get the 2 card sets and get every card that's going to be featured in this release. Or you can, of course, get the actual belt and go that way. Now, what's really cool is that thanks to Team Kamen Rider and Bluefin, these are actually getting US releases here. So that does pretty drastically, in some cases, lower the price on these items. But there is a problem, and I know I hinted at it earlier, and we'll talk about it when we get there. But thanks to Tokullectibles, they have it up on their site right now for you to pre-order this stuff, and GameStop, I believe, should have it as well. They've been getting more recent CSMs and stuff like that via Bluefin and Team Kamen Rider. Here's the thing, though. The US releases of them will not be including the 2 Rekka Daizanto cards that are featured in the set. So not the actual one that has it not faded away, but it's also not going to include the one where the image is kind of faded before the card is unlocked. Because of different distribution rights and such like that, they are not allowed to include the Sentai related cards in the North American release of this toy. Which is a problem for a couple of reasons, because first of all, nobody knew that. Nobody knew that when these went up for pre-order, and so a lot of the Japanese, or all the Japanese versions of these, have sold out on Tokullectibles, and you can still get the US releases, but you're not going to actually be getting a full Complete Selection Modification belt release with this. Because, I mean, you're going to get it, but you're not going to have every card that it's supposed to have because of those distribution problems. So a lot of people didn't know that, and they purchased the US release, and I mean, yes, you're going to save a lot of money, and if those 2 cards, you don't care about those 2 cards, well, fine, it's just 2 cards. I guess in theory you could probably find a way to print them out or something, but I get it. I mean, I would be upset too if there's cards, if I wasn't able to get those cards and I thought that I was. The other question is, why? Why is this a problem here? I think it's kind of obvious who the problem is. Now, of course, it's not confirmed by any means, but it is widely assumed that the reason why the Sentai cards cannot be included in the North American release is because of Hasbro. Hasbro has seemed to... It's a tricky thing, because Hasbro's never going to come out and say, yeah, we put a stop to that. Look at us. But, I mean, it's happened before with Sentai stuff. Of course, infamously, the Shat Factory DVDs for the different Sentais mysteriously stopped once Hasbro took over the brand. And it's not surprising here that there's another Sentai thing that is mysteriously missing. It kind of seems like Hasbro wants the only version of Sentai that there ever can be in the United States to be Power Rangers, which I get it. I totally get that. But I really don't think including these 2 cards would be that big of a pain. Of course, Hasbro could have nothing to do with this, and they can literally just not have the rights to release Sentai stuff over here. But I would imagine that Sentai stuff over here has to be approved by Hasbro, and maybe they just never approved this, or just don't know what this is or something. I don't know. Or I think that it's some kind of Power Rangers. I mean, it is, but it isn't. Yes, I get it. It's a Sentai thing that is a Power Rangers weapon in that regard, but it's just unfortunate that those 2 cards have to be removed. And also, that just seems like such a process. Like, they're gonna have to remove these 2 cards from, like, every version of this toy that comes out. Is that how this is gonna work for the US market? That just seems kind of convoluted. But it is unfortunate, and I can see how that could deter some people. It's really cool, but these CSM toys are just absolutely astronomically expensive. And it's like, I get it, but at the same time, I don't get it. Why these are so much. Well, I think everything that is included here is really, really cool. Who knows, in 5 years from now, they're going to go, oh, here's version 3, where we added the GACT card that was seen in the music video for Journey Through the Decade. We didn't include that one before, and now we have a Gosager card or something. Like, where does it end, you know, if we're going to dive into these version 2s? And like I said, you know, I have praised this thing this entire video, and I still think it is pretty sweet. But, I don't know, I think CSM is just really pricing itself out for collectors. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And as much as I would like it, I can't get it. But I would love to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments below about this toy or any of the stuff we talked about here today. Are you getting any of this stuff? Do you have the original CSM? And if you do, are you perfectly content with that? Or are you going to upgrade to this set? And I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts down there if there's any features you thought this should have included or cards I should have included that it didn't. I didn't, you know, if I think I covered most of the stuff here, but if I didn't, I'm going to be linking the blog posts about this down in the comments below so you can read about all the stuff that they added, as well as all the Tokullectible links if you'd like to pre-order this yourself. Thank you all for watching. Of course, until next time, you can follow me on Twitter at LiveRangerKey or at LightningFigPR. And I gotta say, I hope this toy makes you as happy as it did to Masahiro Inoue, the actual actor for Tsukasa, when he got to do the photo shoot posing of this, which I'm gonna leave you with here today. What a treat this is right here.